Hey guys, welcome to the Convo Couch. Today we've got Victor Spiegel, author, composer, and director. Mm-hmm. Thank you very much for coming by today.
My pleasure. Great to meet you. Donde popticapata.
Alright, and what language would that be
I just
now?
make up stuff.
Okay.
So if I fall into, just ask me if you don't understand.
Okay.
Because I make up words.
And your students sometimes ask you that too?
Yes. For example, very often I'll say, to start a class off, what is music? Because I teach music, and the class I'm teaching this trimester at JMC is music cultures. Every human culture has music, ever since way back. And they found, from about 20,000 years ago, a femur that they put a hole in to play, a bone, a leg bone. So humans have had music ever since there's been humans.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have an answer.
Yeah.
It's more like how we organize sound. But it's also connected to memory, visual, language. They've done tomography of the brain to see when you listen to music, what parts of the brain work, because usually it's like one section. The whole brain engages when there's music.
Mm.
It's the only thing. Yeah, I imagine the very first song was probably a lullaby. How do you stop the kid crying? Simple melody. It wasn't until the millennials started coming in that they couldn't answer it.
So before then, what kind of answers were you getting?
Oh, they'd come up with, well, it's birds, it's noise, it's anything that vibrates, it's sound, it's these things, and I'd argue against them just to see what they would do. Mm-hmm. But it's just to get you thinking. It isn't to provide an answer, because music, ever since it started, has been changing just as language changes.
Yes. Okay.
So it's alive. It's organic. Contemporary composers who would take sound and kind of take it apart and go, we don't need a melody, we don't need a beat or anything. What if we just make pools of sound? That was interesting.
Pools of sound. How does that sound like?
Well, it's just kind of like just textures. Like in an orchestra, like just holding long tones and maybe changing them just a little bit. But it reminds me, I once taught a dance class about music, and I found an Anechoic chamber that we could go to. Do you know what that is?
No, please explain.
Just ask me when I say stuff. It's a place you walk into. You're on a screen, and down below you is acoustic absorbance, as well as around and above you, and every sound is sucked out. You can't hear anything. It's completely silent.
Right.
So the first thing you hear when you walk in is nothing. I mean, really nothing. And then the sound comes, ba-boom, 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 and you go, oh my God, it's my heart. So that's what you hear, because your body's vibrating.
Mm-hmm. So do you actually hear that from
You hear it from inside.
systems, or?
No, you don't hear anything from outside.
Right.
The next thing you hear is this sound, which is your circulation system. And when you talk, you don't have any reflection back, so your skull just vibrates. Like when you have a really bad cold and your ears are stuffed up.
Right.
It's like that.
So whose idea was it to create a room like that?
They use it for testing and experiments and things. But I wanted the dance class to hear it. Because basically that's what started John Cage off, the composer who was working with lots of different elements. And he went into one and that changed him. And this was definitely a life-changing experience.
For you?
Yeah, and for a lot of the dancers. Some of them had to run out.
Right.
Because it was, it was too much to be able to hear your own body. So our body is making music all the time. I have a spiritual journey as well.
Right.
And growing up during the 60s, I am a hippie. Hello. And there was a lot of experimentation and exploration, and all the different religions were kind of like falling into place in coming from the East. And I began to investigate them because I didn't have that before. So all these different paths started showing up, like Buddhism, Hinduism, Sufism, and I was really interested, and I began to study them.
Did you go into, I guess, the world of religion through music?
No, not through music. This is like a thing that kind of like holds everything in it.
Okay.
It's kind of all-inclusive. I was bar mitzvahed, and they asked me to teach whatever you call it, school, and I was teaching kids, and they were asking some really interesting questions that I didn't know the answers to. And like, who's this God guy? And why does he act like a 14-year-old who's jealous and vengeful and vindictive and mean and weird? And I just didn't understand that. And I go, so I went to my rabbi and I said, so what's up with this God guy? And he couldn't answer. And then a book came out right about that time by Baba Ram Dass called Be Here Now. And it was a really well-placed, well-timed book that changed a lot of people's minds about letting go of attachments, which got me interested in lots of things. So I went through, first I started thinking, interested in Atlantis. I read all of the Arabian Nights books, translated by Sir Richard Burton, who was the first one to translate directly from the Arabic. And it's pretty scatological and pretty racy, and but they were teaching stories at the same time. And that got me interested in lots of other things. So I got involved in Rosicrucianism and Masonry and Christianity and magic and alchemy and all these things, and pyramids and Chinese sutras, things like that. And finally I read a book called The Sufis by Idris Shah, and I said, that's what I'm looking for. Well, the Sufis have been around since before there was religion, thousands of years. And the teachings have come down to us, and from them we get things like hospitals, coffee, algebra, chemistry, optics, medicine.
The good things in life. The good things in life.
The things that we use that we take for granted now. And that was profound. So I wanted to know more about them, so I started trying to find a teacher. And that took me about 20 years. Basically, it's about getting out of the way. And I wrote a book called Getting Out of the Way.
Okay.
The idea is to figure out what are your attachments, who do you think you are? And then to look at those and see what you've attached to yourself. So let's say I think I'm a musician. I identify with that. But what happens if you take that away? Who are you? Who am I? So, to examine these things, also the things from your family, what you learned, what you think is right and wrong, true and false, good and bad, what you value. And to bring, and to realize that that's pretty much all false. It's not true. The true self is here in the heart. So getting the other stuff, your brain stuff out of the way, the mental loops that we have, kind of like learn how to get them out of the way. And so we have techniques for dealing with those things.
So where do you feel you are right now in your journey in practicing Sufism?
Here.
Okay. And do you feel like you've gotten rid of your attachments?
No, you never get rid of your attachments. I mean, because we're human, we tend to, wherever we're doing, we're going to get attached to something. It's learning how to let go.
Okay.
More than it is to
And
worry
do
about
you
it.
feel like you've learned how to let go?
I am learning.
What are some of the ways that you learn how to let go?
Well, there's therapy. Just, if you got really deep stuff from your family, you have to do that. Hypnotherapy is good. Meditation, reflection, working with other people. We have things like adab, which is think about other people before you think of yourself. Are they comfortable? Are they happy? Are they what they need? Are they comfortable? And our job is to make other people feel comfortable rather than thinking about, well, they don't think like I do, kind of stuff. So
it sounds like very sort of, I guess, universal principles for living a good life.
Yeah, I think so. When I was in high school, for some reason, we had this great teacher, music teacher, that some of us had, and he was showing us all the latest avant-garde composers, and we would get to play it, and it was so much fun. It was kind of like mind popping. It's just like you're no longer in a known world. Everything is kind of like, well, we have this area that we can move in. It's much more comfortable. Because I was a classical musician. I studied since I was 5. I was very, you play Mozart and Haydn and Brahms and, those guys, you do it right. Get it perfect. This was not about being perfect. This was about exploring what happens if I play staccato and you play staccato, but when you want to. It's kind of like, is he going to do it? When?
What do you think of your current president? I'm just kidding.
Not mine. I don't have anything to do with it. I'm from Berkeley. We don't have anything to do with the United States.
Okay. All right, sure.
It's an embarrassment and a joke.
Okay.
He says fake news. I say fake president.